Thank you very much for having me. My name is Mabel Aoyang. I'm with City of Palo Alto. I am very excited to be joining this and learn more about um, the perspective from the building experts. I myself is from Public Works and in the Environmental Services Division. We are the group that put together the Deconstruction and Construction Materials Management Ordinance for Palo Alto, which is the first of its kind in California. So I would like to go over of the details of how we put this ordinance together and the status of it. Next slide, please. Very quickly, I'll go over the background, how we develop the ordinance, what are the actual requirements, how's the implementation going right now, and share some lessons learned. So back in January of 2017, we have adopted our local amendment, including the C&D diversion requirements. For Palo Alto, we require a 80% diversion minimum for all deconstruction and demolition projects, as well as any projects valuation over $25,000 or more. At that time, a deconstruction survey is already required for any single-family building for a full tear down. That allows us to bring awareness to homeowners on how much materials are actually in the existing structure that could have been salvaged, and that provided an awareness, but also potential time incentive for when a homeowner decided to take on deconstruction instead of traditional demolition. And that really set up a good foundation for us to implement our ordinance later on. Another two main reason that leads us into looking into some kind of deconstruction requirements is because of our waste characterization studies done back in 2017. We found that more than 40% of our waste stream going to the landfill from Palo Alto, actually it's C&D waste. We believe that if we are able to take on a lot of our initiatives, working with our customers, our residents and businesses, we'll still not be able to achieve our 95% diversion from landfill goal by 2030 if we do not start looking into ways that we can improve our diversion from C&D projects. So that really, that took us to the objective of the ordinance and the development. So next slide, please. The ordinance that we have focus on recovering building materials and reducing the amount of waste that's currently going into the landfill. Once we have identified that, we started looking into which projects that we can work with as far as construction projects. And we looked into project value. We looked into the different types of permits, whether we should focus on only residential or commercial projects. Should we be looking at remodeling? We took a lot of these into consideration, and we have multiple community meetings with our stakeholder. That includes architects, general contractors, developers. We were able to bring these ideas to them and get their inputs. And at the end of the day, on the next slide, it shows that we decided on focusing on all complete structure removal projects. We want to have the same requirements for both residential and commercial projects. There is no project value threshold. So basically everything that is planned for a complete tear down, you will be covered in this ordinance. We are excluding single detached garage or detached storage, demo permits, and anything that has to do with ADU. All of this the ordinance was in effect starting July 1st of 2020. It was a little bit tricky, and I'll kind of mention it at the end too, but it's based on the building permit application. So if it's submitted on or after July 1st, then it will be subject to the ordinance requirements that we have put in place. When we took this to council, we actually have pretty good community support. In fact, one of our council member was our big champion for us. They were very involved advocate on salvage and reuse, and hoping to have some kind of deconstruction components included as well. So we were able to pass this ordinance pretty smoothly. So going into the actual ordinance requirements, the first thing is salvage. So the next page, next slides, you will see that we require the salvage survey on the left. That's an example. We partner with a nonprofit in Oakland, the Reuse People. They would come to the job site, do a walkthrough, and put this salvage survey together. It will detail what materials it's suitable for salvage for reuse, but at the same time, what is marketable. It's not just that anything that can be reused is listed, but in reality, is there a market? Is there someone that can use this material if we were to salvage them? And they have some of their specs on how to remove, prepare, and get these materials delivered to their warehouse in Oakland. So you see that this is a beautifully put together pallet of reclaimed lumber from one of these job sites. And the next slide will also show some of the fixtures like doors, windows, cabinets that was prepped before a residential structure were deconstructed. So that's our first step, is salvage, both a salvage survey put together and submitted through building permit application process. And when the permit is issued, that those items were actually put aside. Then we can begin deconstruction and have a couple of pictures of showing the progress. Usually start with a soft gut inside, taking all the walls down, exposing the structure and the framing. And then a lot of the residential homes here has stucco for the exterior. So then that's what they usually do on next. And then the next slide will show that the roofing would be removed and kind of exposing just the again, the framing of the building, and at the end, usually it's only the chimney that is left, where an excavator will come in to take that bricks down and also break down the foundation. So deconstruction obviously is part of the requirements, but while deconstruction is happening, at the same time, source separation of these building materials is also required. So you see that metals is separate. The previous pictures already show that stucco, drywall, everything is separated. So because source separation is a requirement, and for the contractor to achieve that, they will have to be doing deconstruction. There really is no way for a house to be bulldozed over and then the workers are able to sort the material afterwards for really good, clean materials for recycling. So deconstruction and sorting of building materials have to happen at the same time. The next slide will show a couple more pictures on how carpets is pulled out. That is a material that can be recycled on its own as well, and clean wood piles that is not part of the lumber that is up to spec, usually on the length and the condition, that will be separated for recycling also. And once those 3 steps are done, and hopefully the house is completely removed really well, it's documentation. In Palo Alto, we utilize Green Halo, the software, online software. We require contractors to upload their weight tags to track their diversion. And as you can see on the left-hand side, we a lot of the deconstruction projects who has done a great job, they will have a different material type weight tags uploaded, stucco on its own, clean wood on its own, roofing, things like that. And it will really help them to reach our 80% diversion goal. And one thing that we also required is for the for the contractor to also include the initial salvage survey and a receipt or a certification of what they actually delivered for salvaging, to upload that onto Green Halo as well for our compliance check. So I really like to share this picture here because one of the deconstruction contractor informed me that as they were working on the house with a set of really nice cabinets on the left-hand side, they were able to remove them, salvage it, took it over to the reuse people, went through the tax deduction paperwork that if the owner choose to do it, but they were able to actually help with their client to procure the same set of cabinets and installed it somewhere in the Central Valley. And she sent a picture to me saying that, hey, those were the cabinets that we saved and now it's in this house and I want to show you reuse in action. So wanted to share this with you. It's kind of hard to track where the salvage item ended up. So this is the one time that I was able to keep these pictures and share with you guys. Obviously, commercial building reuse, it's also important. The next slide will show that some of the carpet tiles and cubicles components set aside. I'm not exactly sure if everything was being reused, but I know for sure that carpet tiles were brought back to either the carpet manufacturer or they were able to recycle it. But just the effort by the contractor doing the deconstruction, setting aside all of these perfectly good quality material, it's a win and it really feeds into the objective of how we should be saving and reusing materials that we could before taking down the whole structure. So there's a few lesson learned, and I want to share that if any jurisdiction or district looking into putting deconstruction ordinance together, source separation, it's a really big drive, I believe, because it's easier for a contractor to understand, hey, I need you to separate your sheetrock from your stucco from this and that. Whereas if I say, hey, I need you to deconstruct, and that may seem a little more daunting in the idea. So having guidelines with the facility, and in Palo Alto, we are very fortunate to have Zenker recycling that is pretty close to us in San Jose, and working with them to understand their guidelines, what is considered a clean load and what material types do they accept, really help us communicate with the contractors on the details. Another thing is we try to do as much outreach and education ahead of time. So we actually start our discussion during planning entitlement if we can. We would put some comments and send the applicants on about information that, hey, I see that you want to build a new house. Deconstruction, it's something that you'll have to do and think about. And then during the building permit application process, I also reach out and try to talk to the whole group of the project team owners, GC, deconstruction contractor, if they have one, to mention what they need to be prepared of or what to include in their bid packet to get a good quote. And as I mentioned, working with our planning and building departments really helpful. the salvage survey that I mentioned at the very beginning is a requirement for the application submittal. So if you don't have that, you won't be able to get your permit issued. And towards the end of the project, when the green halo is being reviewed as part of the compliance check, we work with our C&D staff who is in planning to check on what compliance they are looking at, but also the deconstruction requirements that my group look at. So that has been a really good collaboration to make sure that the projects are good to go. Next slide. A couple of things that was challenging. There were, when the ordinance was in effect in the beginning, it was confusing because of the effective day. Like I said, it was set up that if a building permit is submitted on or after that certain day, then they will be subject to the ordinance. So there's some confusion at the beginning whether like a project is covered or not. Inconsistency among contractors. So some deconstruction contractors are really good at what they do and following the requirements that I need. Some are doing what they can and not exactly what I need them to do. So after a few years, we have made some improvement. But whenever a project is done by a general contractor doing the deconstruction job themselves, those are more challenging. Whereas we already have a few deconstruction contractors who are basically demo company who have been taking on deconstruction jobs, they have a much better outcome, is what I have observed. And that also is reflected on how well they are able to source separate their debris, sending them to the different C&D recycling facility. And the data that we collect in Green Halo, it's supportive of that data. So that's all I have. And one last thing I want to mention is that there is a Bay Area deconstruction working group that started back in 2017 to learn about the first deconstruction ordinance, started from Oregon, Portland. And we have great resources there and a lot of different cities also looking into deconstruction and reuse of materials. So just want to let you guys know about that group, and feel free to reach out to me and I'll be available for questions later. Thank you very much.